If I was a developer and if I wanted to choose a platform, I think I would. It would very much depend what I would like to do, and I wouldn't start from choosing a platform. I would just think about what kind of an application and business I have. Nowadays, if you have a mobile application, you should have it on every platform. Common practice to start from iPhone, and because if you can pick it up from there, you can expand it to other platforms. The Android platform hasn't been so easy to monetize, and say there is less competition compared to Apple's iOS. You can get easier visibility. The demographics of the users are a little bit different than the Apple users. There's really heavy problem of visibility on Apple's App Store. That there are really quality applications, a lot of those, and it takes a lot for you to get visibility or actually use there. When you come to Android, it has been less than optimal earlier. Now it's getting better. The conditions for developers were not easy. For instance, you could return back an application you purchased within a day, which would be quite enough for a hardcore gamer to actually finish a game and then return it back. So it would be for free. There are also, for instance, there was lack of payment systems. Lots of countries were not included. Android market, when you, well, it's not necessarily so straightforward the first time to purchase something. You have to use Google Checkout. Some people are happy, some people are not happy. It's really hard to say something about the process. But good things are that Google enabled in-application purchases, which is, I think, a good improvement. Purchasing on Apple is still easier and you can monetize it better. I believe there is a bigger chance for a developer who develops for tablet applications which fit to the tablet use cases would have a better chance than iPhone applications because the room is not that crowded yet.
This is Julien Fourgeau, working right now at Rovio, but I've been in the mobile ecosystem for about 10 years right now. I think what people are now complaining about is not only the fact that it's not that it's slow and that it's difficult, but it's just that it's not transparent. And it is really difficult if you're a developer to build something not knowing if it's going to go through. Even at Rovio, when we launched Angry Birds, we first did the first prototype on MIMO, on the N900. And why? Because it was the best implementation of OpenGL. And it was Linux, it was really easy to do. Then of course we published it on the iPhone and it didn't work, not straight away. We put it in the US market and nobody cared. So we had to have a strategy at the time to really get the numbers going until we got to the point that the US market noticed us and featured us. That kind of strategy doesn't work anymore because there's just too much competition. So if you build your community on a smaller platform, on a platform where people are eager to be at the same level as the iPhone users, then you have more opportunities to get the blogs to publish, to get the press to talk about you, and so on. Yeah, so I've been working with essentially with the Ovi store at the time. Then there's also a lot of alternative stores like GetJar, and then of course operator stores that are now popping up all over the place, and that all have their own ways of submitting the applications, validating the application. But the process is usually quite straightforward. You submit your app, it's been reviewed one way or another and tested, and then it goes live in the store.
It's early bird, so it's an early bird opportunity. So I don't want to go into the crowd space and where all these people, and then this Nokia, Microsoft. I believe that like in 2015 this could be like second or first biggest platform, and So as a developer perspective, like, the C has is like much easier to code, and it's much easier, I mean, in all sense. And their API offering is really good, and their developer resources is really large. That's the best available in the net compared to the other platforms. Developer tools, so they're giving this Visual Studio for developing for Windows Phone is free, and it's what's the best IDE available, and it's compared to like Android, like Eclipse and like other Mac things. And their UI concept is pretty good. You can easily design the UIs with this Metro UI and Blend tools, like you pretty much drag and drop. So it's like it's easy and fast to develop and also deploy. In a corporate or for business, actually, they have this Microsoft Office, so they can sync like calendar and like it's much easier to access mails and other things actually. So it's really good in a corporate perspective. I hear from Microsoft guys showing that they can develop some game code actually, which can be deployed at the same time to the phone and to the Xbox, and which you can play in the PC and the phone. At least somehow it's a good thing that Microsoft try to stick with one platform, no fragmentation for the OEMs. But like Android, you might get eventually fragmentations, and then you have to test for multiple OEMs, like multiple ways. That makes it like a hassle, and then you will have like a lot of macros in your code, and you have to maintain the code and stuff like that. But also the UI design is much more fun. You can really do with Windows, with Android. So.
I'm Josep Roca, and I'm a member of the Android Alto community here in Finland. For example, I have like some background in Java, but only as a student, not as like working career. But still, Java is quite a easy language to pick up, and actually the Android documentation is quite good, and there's a really helpful and great community. So it was actually quite easy to start. In my applications I've been doing, I've had like some problems that in a way are quite hard to spot, because you really need to follow a lot of documentation, actually mailing lists, and trying to find the same person who has had the same problem. There are like different companies, and even like the devices, different hardware, different resolutions, different screen sizes, different pixel densities on the screens. So it's really hard to cope with everything. From the hardware point of view, there are like plenty of devices, and there are like plenty of devices with a super huge range of capabilities and prices, which is most important. For example, develop for the iPhone, it's okay, an iPod Touch or an iPhone or an iPad, which are like quite expensive. You don't really need to pay anything to develop yourself Android applications. The only thing is that if you want to upload them in the Android market, there is a single payment of $25, if I remember correctly. The applications in Android, they don't need to have this process of approving by the responsibles, which is also another source of problems, as for example malware or spyware or bad software. But it's really easy to get there and actually start developing like from the first day. And after all, it all comes like to the how many users is your platform supporting. I mean, the more users, the more applications, and the more developers, and the more interest in general.